Well, I figured today, instead of working on the Nissan, as there's not really much more I can do at this point in time with it, might as well start working on the mowers and the edger, I guess. And I think what I'm going to start working on first, because I know it runs, is this green one here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the bag off of it. Always got to look for black widows around here. They sure like to hang around. Let's get started. Now, of course, the first thing you'll want to do is crack a beer whenever you're working on a lawnmower, garden tools, or anything like that. PBR is a perfect lawnmower type of beer. Haven't really been drinking too much lately. It's the first beer I've had in quite a while. It's good shit. That's what I love about Pabst. I never hate it. But this one here runs, but it surges. The RPMs go up and they go down. It doesn't really stay the same. I didn't run it for all that long, but I did notice right off the bat that this old air filter was really dirty. So that's garbage. That can be thrown over there. And just so I don't forget, go ahead and put the new one in, because I did buy the new one. So the very first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove the bottom nut here at the bottom of the bowl. So I'm just going to give it a few good sprays, kind of clean it off a little bit. It's really dirty. So now we can kind of see all the different bits and pieces that we're going to have to pull off. So let's get to it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this bottom bolt out of the carb. It's going to get some gas. It's going to make a mess and get some gas all over. So, you know, you kind of can't really avoid it. Now you want to be careful not to lose that little washer that's on the end of the, on the bottom of the bolt. But just kind of look it over, make sure nothing's really, I mean, you have a few holes here that you can get the tip out of a wire brush. A wire from a wire brush, and just kind of poke and clean out these little holes. So let's inspect the bottom of the bowl, or see how it is. So it is a little dirty, not nearly the worst that I've seen, but go ahead and just kind of spray it out with your carb cleaner. And now we're going to check the float. Everything else seems to be working okay. There is a small little hole in that middle stem. I don't know that you guys, but it's right there, a little tiny hole. What you want to do is you want to run, again, wire off of a wire brush through it, kind of clean it out a little bit, and you might want to bend it a little bit as well, because that'll, you know, kind of snake it through there in a different way. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that ready. So now I'm just going to run this wire through it. Kind of clean it out a little bit. And clean out all those little tiny passageways the same way with the little wire. Yeah, that one was nice and dirty. Now another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull off the intake. You know, this little pipe right here. I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to clean. Now another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull off the intake. You know, this little pipe right here. I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to clean out the flapper valve. Go ahead and move that around a few times while I do it, just to get the cleaner in. I'm also going to pull off this part here that holds your air filter on, so your mount. And then I don't have a new primer bulb yet, but this one's not completely blown out. It's still useful. But I'm going to go ahead and clean off some of the corrosion off the float as well, and then we'll get to it. Now I'll say this much, when you go about cleaning this stuff, you don't necessarily want to use a brush. This one's a brass tip brush, so it's not all that hard. But you really want to use steel wool when you go about doing this. And I'm not going to look to do this perfect, just kind of well enough to clean it up a little bit. I'm doing it very lightly. Not trying to stab the hell out of it either. And then as soon as I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and spray it down with some steel, or as soon as I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and spray it down with some carb cleaner and then reassemble the bowl. Go ahead and put your bowl back on, your bolt with the washer back in. There we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull the intake off. And of course, in order to get to this back bolt back here for the intake, I have to pull the muffler off. Of course, there might be some black widows, but that's why my other hand has a glove on it. You know, I could have sworn there's supposed to be a gasket right there. This mower might have been worked on before. So now I can go ahead and disconnect these two. And now that the muffler's off, I can go ahead and disconnect these two in the back here. And of course, the next step you can do is you can go ahead and remove these springs or pliers. Carefully just remove them. So with this one, this actually hooks up onto the top and it goes right here. So I'm just going to put it out of the way. And this bottom one, let's go ahead and remove it. And of course, the carburetor is going to end up being out completely. So what I'm going to do is everything behind here, I'm going to take a brush to and clean out as well. And so now with everything off, I can go ahead and disassemble the carburetor a little bit more. And of course, it still needs to be cleaned out a little bit more with some carb cleaner. So I'm going to go ahead and do that as well in the back. So now I'm just going to go ahead and remove these bolts that hook the intake onto the carburetor. Got a little bit of gunk in there. Not too much, but I'm going to go ahead and spray it out as well. Without having to take it completely apart, I think this will do good enough. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting everything back together. So now, as I said, I'm just going to go ahead and put everything back on. Put the lines back on. And I might just end up replacing this line in the future. I just looked. I don't have any spare line this size lying around. So I'm just going to continue to use it. Now in order to hook everything back together, I am going to have to remove this just to make it a little easier on me. And I'll remove the two bolts up here. And I'm going to remove the two bolts back here. And the gas tank just slides up and off. So I just let it sit to the side. Amazing, no black widows. I am going to go ahead and clean that out a little bit. It's pretty dirty and nasty. Now with everything completed, carburetor's hooked back up and rigged. So now I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the reel here. Remove your vice grip. And we'll install our new air cleaner. And we'll put the muffler back on and see how she runs. Alright, so let's go ahead and move it over. Might still have to go ahead and tune the carburetor a little bit, but go ahead and pump it up a few times. See what happens. And so I did just tune this up. I adjusted the governor speed, and in order to do that, what you have to do is, you can see that bracket back here, I kind of had to bend it all the way this way, and in order to slow your mower's RPMs down, you bend it that way. To speed up, you bend it that way. It comes vertical from the factory, so remember, I did it like that to slow it down a little bit. It's not running perfect, but there is another way you can do it. You take your air cleaner off, and I might end up having to loosen that screw up down in there and adjusting the bracket right there as well. But we'll have to see. So let's go ahead and fire it up again, see how it runs. I just took it on a test mow, I guess you could say. Start it back up. Does seem like it's running a little high still, but not nearly as bad as it was. I might still have to tweak the tuning a little bit. Until next time, guys, y'all stay classy.